when I first went into business, um, even before I actually developed this plan for going into business that I just described to you, I knew that I wanted to go into business at some point. I knew that I didn't know a whole lot. I knew I was a relatively capable guy. And so I made an offer to two of the wealthiest people of my generation, of the generation that was wealthy. And those two people were Howard Hughes and John Paul Getty. And I wrote both of them very long saying, I want to come to work for you. I'm a bright guy. Here's some entrepreneurial things I did when I was a kid. I think I could be very helpful to you. I don't want you to pay me anything. I'll work for you because I want to learn what you do and how you create wealth. And I believe that if I'm learning from you, that as a part of that process, I can contribute great value. And I went on to state what I thought I could do to help. Neither of them answered my letter. But at that point in time, I made a vow to myself that if I ever got to be where they are, or even close, that what I would do is to make my knowledge available to up and coming entrepreneurs to help other people achieve high levels of entrepreneurship. And so as part of that promise to myself, I started something called Bizarre Financing. And the idea, it was to train up and coming entrepreneurs in the tools and techniques and methods and strategies and structures that I use to create these business acquisitions and to achieve wealth. And we started that program in 1980, and very, very successful right out the door. And so we developed not only a training program that trains people how to do all this stuff from start to finish, from every technique that we evolved, but we also had something called an advisor line, which meant that anytime one of our people that we trained ran into a problem getting a deal done, they would call us and say, how do I handle this? What do I do about that? So that advisor line became a very important support resource to our people that we were training. But it did more. It did more. What happened is a lot of bright people came through our program. And even though they may have had this particular challenge, when I helped them solve that challenge, they would come back to me a week later, a month later, a year later, and they would say to me, hey, Bizarre, you know that technique that you shared with me on how to get over this hurdle? They said, well, I used it. It wouldn't quite work for me. So I had to modify it. And here's how I modified it. Here's how it worked. So we were grateful. Okay, hey, listen, here's a new thought, a new idea, a proven alteration of a basic theory. And so we then published that into our program, and we would continually upgrade our program with all the new things that we were learning from our graduates of our program. So the program kept expanding with the techniques that after they were modified 3 or 4 times, they didn't look like the same technique anymore. There were a whole new concept in how you create this kind of financial leverage. And so over the years, instead of teaching the 3 to 5 basic strategies and structures that we started with, we're up to 116 or 118 different major strategies that we use, for many of which don't look anything like what I just shared with you. They've evolved to a whole new state of the art in how these things are done. I mean, 1980 to 2024, it's a long time to build on top of building all of these elements to the level that they are today. And the advisor line is still part of our program. We still continue that. We still continue to support the people we work with and to learn the new techniques, the new institutions that are out there, how to take the new technologies and use the technologies to super leverage the concepts that we've developed. And life is always changing. And in the information age that we live in, information is always compounding better and better and better. And we're involved and integrated into that process for the benefit not only of our own purchases, which we continue to make today, but of the purchases that our students are making today. Today, we've evolved this concept, for example, of strategic aggregation. What's strategic aggregation? Well, if you're going to buy businesses, you can buy a business that's standalone and all you got is what you paid for, right? Well, you don't want to just own a business that's only worth what you paid for it, because now you got to step in and build its value. You want to have a plan, a strategy, so that the instant you buy that company, it's instantly worth more money than it was to the seller. It's instantly got more cash flow than it had for the seller. It instantly has more profit. because now that's a value add. And when you add value and you can do it instantly to the company, you have more to share with your investors, with your lenders, with your suppliers, with your employees. You have more to share with everybody. You can create a much bigger, better business, so capable of paying off the debt, so capable of giving high returns to your investors that they can't help but say yes to you when you ask them to support your acquisition. So how does strategic aggregation do that? Well, the first business I buy would have a problem, okay? And there's nothing to strategically aggregate it with on day one. But my second purchase is not going to be the same. My second purchase is going to be a business that supports in one way or another the business objectives of that particular company. So for example, let's say the first company I bought was a real estate broker, okay? And it lists commercial homes. Residential homes, all right? And it earns its money by either selling a person's home or selling a person looking for a home, somebody's home, okay? So they put all this money into getting people to come to their brokerage firm. They invest all this money in their infrastructure to support those two activities. And when they buy or sell the home on behalf of a client, they make a commission. And then they're done. And if they're lucky, that customer will come back to them when they buy or sell a new house in 5 to 10 years. But in the meantime, they're finished. Their income's over. Well, we combine that company with our next purchase, which is not going to be another real estate brokerage firm. It's going to be an escrow company. Okay. And that escrow company is seeing home buyers and home sellers right at the time they're making the decision to buy a home. The broker's clients that sells the home, the real estate broker, they're seeing clients at the same time that they have to make a decision to put a transaction into an escrow to close. Okay, so now I'm able to take both companies, and with the acquisition of the second company, my first company is going to become worth more. Why? Because it's going to get more sales than it would have had otherwise. Okay, going to get more people who are buying or selling the house. And my escrow company is going to get more business than it did before because my brokerage firm is now going to bring the clients that they're selling, they're going to bring them to their escrow company. So that company is going to get more business from the transactions of my brokerage firm. So both companies became more valuable on the day I closed that acquisition, and both experienced an immediate increase in cash flow and profit. Now I don't stop there. Okay, what's the next thing I do? Well, what else would service it? Well, suppose I buy a home renovation company. Okay, people who renovate homes. A choice they're having to make is: do I want to renovate the house that I got, or do I want to buy a new one? And if I do, then I'm going to put this one up for sale, and then I'm going to go buy a new one. So that renovation company can supply leads to my brokerage firm. It can supply leads to my escrow company. My brokerage firm can supply leads to it. I got a client just wants to buy this house, but they don't like this part of it or that part of it. So I say, don't worry about it. We've got a renovation or a company that can renovate that and fix it for you, and we can set that all up right after the closing. It'll get done before you even have to move into the house. Or if I'm trying to sell the house, but it's a little run down, my broker is now telling me, okay, well, don't worry about it. We'll fix up the house, or with a budget of X, we can fix it up. And with that budget of X, it'll now be worth 10 times that budget more in sale value. So I'm taking each company that is seeing clients at and around the same time, engaged in essentially the same activity, and I'm able to cross-market them in ways that make each one instantly more profitable. So now I have a method to my madness. I'm not just willy-nilly buying companies. I have the ability to buy companies, to add value to that company the instant that I acquire it. And as a result of that, I can get investors excited because I can show them how we're going to make a great return on this investment in the company, how it's going to be worth so much more after we bought it. Same thing with my lenders. Here's the cash flow now, which is already sufficient to amortize the debt. But when I do this to this, we can amortize that debt even quicker if you want. And your loan is more secure because there's going to be new income streams coming in the minute we own this company. So I am able to get everyone excited about my company and my purchase. So that's the nature of the kind of knowledge that we keep bringing to our people at Bizarre Financing. So when we train them how to do it, we don't stop there. We support them all the way through the acquisition process, even to the point of post-acquisition. How do they continue to build up that company to make it more valuable, improve their cash flow, improve their profitability? Now, in Bizarre Financing, we also looked at all of the tools that it takes to do this. So, for example, if you have to create a value on a company, you got to know if you're paying the right price for it, right? Well, there's ways to do that. So we developed this tool called the business price calculator, and we can take numbers off the financial statements of that business, off the balance sheet and off the income statement. We just put them into the computer, right? They go into a data entry spot. We just take information which is available from the seller, and we know within 5 or 10% what the realistic value of that company is. No matter what industry it comes from, no matter whether it's a manufacturer, distributor, service business, doesn't matter. Business Calculator handles all of that. And so now we know if we're going to be paying a realistic price for the company. We won't waste time on a seller who's saying to us, I want, X dollars for my business, but that X dollars is half again what it's worth. And we know they're not likely to come down from that because to them, the business has this emotional value. But we have the tools that we can show them what it's worth. We can take them and show them in the marketplace what it's worth. And it eliminates a lot of the debate, a lot of the arguments, and it gets us right quickly into the value of the business. We have another tool called a doable deal analyzer, where we put those same data into the doable deal analyzer. But now it tells us, now that we know the purchase price, tells us where the money can come from, all 146 different types of sources that it can come from. It gives us the cost for each source of that. It gives us what our cash flow will be when we use that source and have to make repayments. So we know how to allocate between equity that we need to get and loan that we can support the debt service of. It tells us everything we need to do it. And the tool will even take and optimize the cash needed for that purchase. In the shocking that when we finish that tool, we find that there's usually 110 to 130% of the purchase price that we can raise in the purchase of that company. Sounds crazy, but it can be done. And so we end up with enough cash at close that not only are we handling all of the debt service, not only are we handling returns for investment, not only are we buying a business that's now going to be worth more, but what we're able to do is to actually pull cash out of the closing. So not only didn't we put up any of our own cash, but we end up with more cash when the deal closes than is needed for the purchase. And so we can keep it as working capital in the company, which I do a lot of the time. So I want to build it and I want it to grow. But there are times when we'll pull it out too and buying the new car, or it's buying the new home, buying the yacht, or it's doing whatever for personal use we want to put it to. But both are possible when you have the deal structured properly and you have all the information. So the programs that we have that support our members that we have in Bizarre Financing is from the very elementary purchasing to what we call Bizarre Financing Pro, which is the full range of every piece of information we know is included in that program. We have the advisory support. We have the where we're actually advised. But then we have another program called PIBA Gold. PIBA stands for Partners in Business Acquisition, where we'll partner up with our graduates and either we'll be their partner in buying the company, and we'll supply any of the missing ingredients. So if they don't know how to finance the company, we'll get it financed. If they don't know how to, negotiate the deal, we'll negotiate the deal. If they don't know how to structure it because math is their thing, and so they were able to, create a great relationship with the seller. The seller wants to sell to them, but they don't know how to structure and negotiate the deal. Well, we'll handle that for them. And that's called Partners in Business Acquisition. And then we go one step further. And we have another program called Partners in Business PIBA Gold. And that's a done for you service. And in that service, we just spend time with our member. They don't want to know all the details of how to do all this stuff. They just want to get it done. And so we have a commitment fee. We do charge for that service because we want to know they're committed to the result. But we spend time with them to identify the criteria for the right company for them to own, one that fits their background, fits their experience, fits their enjoyment or passion, if you will, so that they can really enjoy the operation of the business. And then we handle it after we have the criteria where we've agreed upon with them on the criteria. They don't have to do anything more. They can participate if they want, but they don't have to. We literally handle everything else that has to get done. We find the business. We check it against the criteria. We do the due diligence on the company to make sure that what we're seeing is actually true about the company. We handle the structuring of the deal. We handle getting the finance. We handle the closing. We handle everything and turn the business over to that PIBA member or our PIBA partner. Now, we're going to be their partner. We're going to have a part interest in the company too, as a part of our reward for all the work that we did to make it happen. But we're going to be their driver in that process. And we will look to how do we strategically aggregate it. So it's not like, well, we're just going to buy the company and that's the end of it. We know how to buy a company, right? We know how to create that value added that makes the company worth more. So the goal of the entire process is to take that company and make it a more valuable company than the one that was purchased. So all in all, those are the things that we do. Now, in our PIBA Gold program, that has been so successful that right now we have a waiting list. We don't have the internal talent to handle more than we're handling now. And so we had to create a waiting list for that. But it's a great program, and we're thrilled to be able to do that with people who just know they want to get into a business and haven't had the personal success in doing it. We have people in our program. They've taken every business buying course on planet Earth from all of the gurus out there who advise and train people how to do it. But they always get to the same spot, which is they get into negotiation and they can't get it financed. They get everybody wanting to say yes. They've learned how to write a letter of intent, learned how to value a company, they learned how to negotiate a deal, and everything gets done. They got everything signed except the money. And we find that that's our most valuable add to that process is knowing that we can get it financed. And then we see a lot of people who don't want to even know all that stuff. Just want to write the commitment check, the commitment fee, and then just own a business. They don't want to do all the rest. They just want to own it, run it. Now, a lot of the times people say, well, I want to run the business. We try and talk them out of it. Why? Because unless this is a business that they have an incredible track record in themselves, we only go after businesses in PIBA that have a management team in place with a track record of running the business profitably. The reason for that is if you're buying a seller-owned business and the seller is instrumental in the running of the company, that is not a company you want to buy. And the reason for that is the results you're seeing that are producing all those profits, the chances are it's the talent and ability and experience of the seller that's making it happen. And when you go in and replace them and you don't have those same attributes, the chances of the business being as successful for you are frankly very, very slim. So we like to look at a business as a functioning entity of provable past results and probable future results, so that when we buy it, we know exactly what we can expect. Now, there's nothing that would stop me or any of our other buyers from taking an interest in the company, working with the top management to discuss ideas and thoughts, expansion possibilities, and bringing the talent of the buyer to interact and optimize the experience and results of the existing management. That's smart to do that. But to replace the management is not a good idea. Okay, if you have to replace management, don't buy the business. And the reason is because management is the results of a harmoniously operating team of people who trust and respect each other and who feed off of each other to optimize their own capabilities. And you disrupt that management team, you will not have the same company that you bought. If the owner isn't going to stay on, so we buy a lot of businesses where the owner is key, but they'll stay on for 5 years after the purchase. and is part of giving them incentive to do that, we allow them to continue to own 20% of the company. And so we'll buy 80% of the company in effect. We'll allow them to own 20%. We'll bring our value added strategies to the company. We'll show the seller where his 20% is a second bite at the apple that's going to enable him to sell that 20% probably back to us in 5 years for more money than we paid him for his 80% in the upfront purchase. And so we have an excited seller who's going to get to benefit from our capabilities. We've got a management team that's going to stay in place. We have a long enough transition period that the seller is there to upscale or upgrade one of those management people or bring in a new management person who over time can integrate into the management team of the company so that the outcome of that transition in management is more assured to be good. So we've thought these things all the way through, every single feature and factor of what it takes to make a successful acquisition. But why is this all valuable to you? This is valuable to you because you don't have to invent it for yourself. You can have it all available to you literally tomorrow. Within 3 to 5 months, you will be doing it, not thinking about it or contemplating it. You will have the top resources on the planet at your disposal. You will have all the knowledge and capabilities for how do you do this without big amounts of capital of your own. You will have all the knowledge that assures you that the outcome of your acquisition will be successful. And that even if you've been buying multiple companies, we'll still be with you. Because one of the challenges you have when you buy other companies and you integrate them to the one that you already have is there's often a potential culture clash between the two companies that you bought. And I'll give you an example. Okay, one company is profit driven, man, they're for the bottom line. Don't give a damn about the client, the customer, or customer service. They just want the money. And your other company is one where you've recognized that long-term service of your client is the ultimate end to profitability. And over time produces far and away the biggest profits because your clients become raving fans. They bring in their friends. You're able to expand the company faster. You don't have as many complaints to deal with, so that cost goes away. You don't have service issues, so that cost goes away. In other words, all the things that the fast buck makers want to do cost you money in the long run. So if you're building a company, customer service is everything. It's going to enable you to build it with lower costs in the end. So we're able to anticipate these culture clashes to make sure that the company you're buying is also one whose culture is symbiotic with yours, that will function in support of the company that you already have. And when you integrate the functions of the two companies, everything will harmonize because they're already on the same frequency. So those are the kind of things that we bring to the party. And acquisition, while it's the greatest way to build wealth fast, it's also perhaps the most complex. You got a lot of moving parts to create a successful acquisition. And so if you can do it with the assistance or the done for you side of what we do, it can make a huge difference in your ability to do it and to do it quickly.